on the form of man, rise the demon Etrigan. Again. Here's a look at McFarlane Toys. DC Direct, the new Batman Adventures, Etrigan. Etrigan was a lesser demon of hell who burned with rage and ambition. When he rebelled against the master Lucifer, the infernal lord allowed the magician Merlin to bind Etrigan to a human scribe named Jason Blood. When danger threatens, Jason switches with Etrigan, but is transported to hell while the demon is in control. For his part, Etrigan resents being forced to act like a hero for a human and plots to gain his freedom. I think judging by the size of the demon, I may have to switch places with some of the figures I currently have on my shelf. Before that we get a closer look at the demon Etrigan, I'm going to take the tape measure, as of course we always do here, and let's see how tall the figure stands. While I'm doing this, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that again came through and did provide this sample. Etrigan is available either in stores, or if you've had no luck to find this in the wild, you can also check online. The figure as a whole is going to stand at 6 inches in height, working out to be a figure that's 15 centimeters tall. Speaking of switching, one could have also swapped this figure with the DC Direct one that got packed with Clarion, a 2-pack in fact that we've actually looked at earlier here on this channel. Unfortunately, though, as it normally be the case, Murphy's Law, I can't find that figure at all. So I'm not going to be able to bring in that original Etrigan. However, I can bring in some of the other figures that we've already had a look at. More importantly, like Mr. Freeze. Not that Mr. Freeze ever really teamed up with the Demon, but though that Mr. Freeze was a figure that we looked at this week. Bringing in the Blue Batman just because that's also a re-released figure from Todd and his team. Let's also bring in some other figures that tend not to see light of day here lately. Here's first what the figure looks like with the original Batman animated series Bane. And of course we've also got Killer Croc. Some could say, what a crock. This figure doesn't come included with a Clarion, and I'm okay with that. I think really most people would be more interested in getting Etrigan over having a 2-pack, especially also that the 2-pack would involve costing obviously a little bit more than buying the singular release of him. Even though he doesn't actually have the child demon, what he does have though instead is the figure does have a screenshot from the episode. This is the new Batman Adventures. One thing I will say, though, is that the image that they used isn't the clearest. It could have just been where they pulled the source from. But I feel like they probably could have used a clearer image. Not maybe, in fact, one where Etrigan has to share the screen with somebody else. The back, by the way, is pulling from the episode of The Demon Within, which was a Season 1, Episode 10 episode. Episode 10 episode. Synopsis is that Batman and Robin enlist the aid of the demon Etrigan when an ancient artifact is stolen. The original air date for this was May 9th, 1998. It was directed by Atsuko Tanaka, and the story was by Stan Berkowitz. One thing like before, you can also take these and fold them out. If you're one that doesn't really like to have photos displayed on your mantle, hey, as an option available, you can display these on your mantle instead. Somebody could kind of walk through your house. Oh, do you have pictures of the family? And then they walk over. Is that a picture of a demon? Yes, in fact it was. Let's go ahead and just kind of move this out of the way for right now. The figure does also come included with the display stand. Those by now familiar with the new DC logoed stands will know that McFarlane Toys essentially does use the regular DC Direct shape, but then cast it instead in black plastic. Instead of having the front, side, and 3/4 turn rotation of Etrigan, what they choose though instead is just simply print the new Batman Adventures on the top. I kind of like this. It's a little more cleaner. It's a little more precise. It's directly to the point. Some though prefer though the turnaround. If you're obviously interested in that, you may want to source out and get the DC Direct one instead. Now, assembly for this, by the way, when you're having basically this pulled out of the packaging, consists of 3 parts. Now, when you go to put the post into the hole, it's not just a case of fitting a circle into a circle. When you look at it, though, you can see that, if I could just hold this real close, you can see that, the top of this is actually flat. Normally, though, you'd have yourself a cylinder or a long post. But the only part that's different is this flat piece right here. And when you put it in, you'll have to see that it also has to go to a direct size or a direct shape. So you can't put the regular circle in. You can, you'll only have to force it. You'll only end up breaking it. And you'll cry like a child instead. No, what you'll have to do differently is use the flat end. I know we're not going to eat up a whole review just talking about the display stands, but you'll see that fits fine. Then you get yourself the waist clip. Now the waist clip is different this time around. McFarlane Toys enlisted the aid of using a spring, where this does open up and it fits around Etrigan's waist. The thing about it, though, is using one that basically is used all across the board, and they're basically painting a big, broad brushstroke across all the figures. You'll notice, though, with Etrigan, he's got notably a much wider waist. So this doesn't really technically fit really around his waist. You'd have to rely more on having this clipping around his leg. And even then, he's got a meaty thigh. Let's take that off for at least right now. Put the figure down for a second. The figure does, I would say, normally use a display stand, probably be a good idea, just because Etrigan is a little broader in the shoulders, a lot more weight up in the top of the torso. Display stands certainly would be readily available, or should really be readily available. This also, I noticed too, is a little tighter on the post. We looked at Mr. Freeze earlier into this week, and then I noticed with his, it sat really loose on the post. Etrigan seems okay, though. Let's move that off to the side. The figure does also have some swappable hands. On the ends of his forearms currently, the figure does also have closed fists. If you don't like the look of closed fists, perhaps may I recommend instead the figure does have some gripping hands. What he's actually gripping, though, is unknown because the figure doesn't have any other accessories than what you're currently seeing right now. If you did want to swap these out, though, it's just a case of yanking off the ones on the ends of his forearms and swapping it out with these instead. I think, though, choosing instead to go with the much better looking sculpted hands, he does also have like demon kind of clawing hands. More relaxed hands than anything else, but at least these give you the chance to see his nails. He keeps his nails in somewhat pristine condition. There's no additional paint or anything on that. I don't think it necessarily needs it either. Swapping out the hands, though, hold on to the forearm. Don't let go, whatever you do. This guy's not going to like the idea of you yanking off his hands anyways. But you'll notice, though, taking off the hands, not hard at all. Putting the new hands in, also very, very easy. We'll do it on this side as well. Pop that off, swap it out with the relaxed hand, and now you're good to go. Yeah, this definitely gives him a little bit more character and personality. Although, again, it's going to make the figure a little bit more top-heavy. I did notice, though, getting this guy out the gate, out of the packaging, seems a little loose in the ankles. We're going to kind of talk about that more in a moment. First, though, picking up Etrigan. I feel like if you had picked up already the 2-pack with Clarion, you're essentially getting the exact same figure. I don't know, though, if Etrigan ever got a singular release. You can let me know down below in the comments section. But from what I remember, and from what I've seen, this looks to be the original Etrigan. Not really much changes when it comes to certainly the colors either. The reds are all still there, the grays are all still there, and of course he still has really quite an ugly-looking mug. The thing about the figure's face, though, is while really retaining the same mold as the original Etrigan, I think from what I remember, the colors seem, on the yellow at least, a little bit more custard in color. The original Etrigan, I seem to recall being a much lighter yellow. Lighter yellow in obviously the head and then the hands and in his legs down as well. It's funny, though, that this guy walks around in shorts and like elf shoes. The cape looks also to be the exact same from before. It's using a much softer, though softer, a much heavier cape. I mean, using a rubbery material works fine and good because it does have a little bit of give. You can do a lot more with a cape. You can't do this if this was plastic. But because of that, though, it does make the figure a lot heavier. And again, stating this already, getting this guy out of the packaging, I noticed that his ankles seem loose. This one more so than this one here. But all in all, though, I really like the look of Etrigan. Truth be told, though, I really would have liked if this guy could have come and include some accessories, but I know really that the budget was eaten up with just the size of this figure. The thing about it, though, is with McFarlane Toys essentially just rehashing molds that DC Direct had already done before. DC Direct essentially did do all the cost, all the paying up front to make the molds, to cast the molds, to release the figures the first time. McFarlane Toys essentially is just going in there and just reusing the molds that already exist. I don't think he's necessarily tweaking or changing anything that's already there. So he's already saving the cost on the mold. He's not saving the cost, obviously saving the cost of producing the tooling. So I think that with that budget being saved, they could have included some additional accessories. Now, again, he doesn't have Clarion, but maybe a scroll, maybe something could have been included with the figure. The fact that even the fact that they teased that the figure does have a gripping hand and he doesn't have anything to actually grip. Just a scroll, just something I think could have gone a long way. Or a torch, even like a torch would have been fine. A torch or a scroll, something along those lines. For the figure's articulation, though, if you're familiar with the original Etrigan, then you'll know this one as well. He is, though, quite prickly, as you'll see on the sides. His ears are very spiky, as well as he's got the horns on the front of his face. So when you're holding onto the figure and you're turning him, you can really feel, especially his ears. Don't be running around the kitchen with this guy in hand, because if you happen to fall on Etrigan's ears, ouch! You're not going to be hurting your ears, you can be hurting your eyes. But yeah, the figure does have a ball joint, so you can rotate it back and forth. The head it's going to look up, not much though. The head looks a lot better lower though. The figure's head also does rock back and forth, which kind of gives you a cool looking pose for it. For his arms, they swivel back and forth. You can also hinge them out. Despite having so much mass, the figure surprisingly pulls off a quite successful T-pose. The figure does also have a single hinge in the elbow that allows the forearm to rotate back and forth. Whether you want to use these hands, whether you want to use the closed fists, or whether you want to use the C-clamp gripping hands, they all basically give you the same swivelage all the way around and the same hingeage where you can move that back and forth. Say what? No. Also a hinge there as well. Upper torso is going to be on a ball joint, so that moves quite freely up and down. Not only really is it on a ball joint, but you can also see as well he's got a crunch joint right in the middle of his tummy. There is no swivel there for the waist. I don't think it necessarily needs it. The color is pretty close. There are a few little things that you'll see where the red isn't quite the same color. The red seems brighter though on his arms. They also seem brighter down below here on his legs. They seem more muted right around this area here. The legs do split out. Now these are on hinge joints. I did notice though something about this. Oh, it's always this one leg. Mr. Freeze had this problem too. One leg seems super tight. The other leg seems more freer to do what it needs to do. Speaking of what needs to do, it can also do this. You can bring the legs forward, you can bring them back. There's no swivel. While it may look though, there's a cut where his shorts would be. That's more just paint. That's all it's doing. There's a hinge only in his knee. The lower leg doesn't rotate or anything like that. Don't turn it, whatever you do. There is no articulation here for the boots or the shoes. There is an ankle pivot, or an ankle rocker, I should say, but there is no pivot. I do really wish that this figure could have had pivotage in his anklage so that you can actually rock these back and forth. Because of that, though, you're always kind of feeling that you're balancing this figure on not really even flat feet, because the feet kind of angle up like this. I mean, he stands fine on them, but I think if he had had only just an ankle pivot, the figure could have done a better job of balancing. Because when you put him down on a shelf, for example, see how his duck bills down below aren't completely flat. They almost kind of go this way. And that certainly doesn't help when it comes to the stability of Etrigan. Outside of though, it's a nice looking figure. I really am disappointed though that I couldn't even find where I put the other Etrigan. Now again, that other Etrigan was released by DC Direct, or DC Collectibles if you prefer, as part of the Batman New Adventures. He was packed along with, as well with Clarion. And I swear to you, I thought the figure was, I had him in a tote. And while I was kind of going around looking for the things I wanted to use for comparisons, thinking though I would be able to easily find Etrigan, his whereabouts, again, unknown. So while unfortunately you don't get yourself Clarion, you do get yourself, I guess as a trade-off, you get yourself a framed photo of Etrigan. Little on the blurrier side. I do kind of wish it was a little clearer than what we actually get here. But as a singular release, if you want to save the cost of getting a 2-pack for Clarion when you have little to no interest in the child, getting a singular, though, release of Etrigan might be the better bet for your collection. I don't really know if it's a good idea to rotate a recycled demon, but yet we push forward. You may notice, though, I'm pushing forward without the use of the display stand. While the display stand is the same one that we've gotten already from McFarlane Toys and the new Batman Adventures, having recycled the base, recycled the post, and unfortunately recycling the waist clip just isn't going to be able to fit around Etrigan's wider waist. It works okay with regular Batman animated series figures, but because again Etrigan is a beefier boy, it's not going to do as easy of a job fitting around his. The figure is a recast essentially from the one that we've already gotten before. Some may have already picked up that 2-pack from DC Collectibles in the past and may choose just to pass on Etrigan altogether. The thing about this guy though is that the colors seem a little richer from what I remember, and while unfortunately again he doesn't have Clarion, what he does have though is not the clearest of photos, but at least he gets himself a screen grab from the episode he appeared in. Other than that, though, some swappable hands are about the only other thing that the figure does have. And because, again, like they save really the cost of producing this figure from scratch, just really using a retooling of a mold that they already have or had belonged to another company, I feel could have maybe been the opportunity that they could have invested some of the additional budget to then include maybe a scroll, a torch, something though that Etrigan could have been known for outside of the regular hands he already had before. A big thank you again though to the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide the sample. This was the new Batman Adventures, and this was Etrigan, the Demon. What do you guys think of the figure? Let me know down below in the comment section. One question certainly I would like to pose to you guys is, if you already have the Etrigan from DC Collectibles, is there enough at least for the changes that they've made that's worth picking this figure up again? If you guys did also enjoy this video, you can do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more? So I hope so. Hit that subscribe, turn on that bell so you're going to get the reminders every time that a new video gets posted. And speaking of posting videos, there's going to be more posting and coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.